This week on Arizona Illustrated, the cleaners, a look at workers' rights.
Even though we know something illegal is happening, an employer is intimidating enough and has enough to work with that we end up advising a worker not to go forward because there's too much at risk for them.
The Tucson Hip Hop Festival.
There's a vivid hip hop scene here in Tucson. You know, whether you're rapping, whether you're just a fan, whether you're an artist of any sort, DJ, whatever, it's just something to bring the community together.
And the limits of memory, how we recall.
We have bits of information, some aspects of what happened, and then we construct like the most likely scenario of what did happen. And, you know, by and large, it's correct.
Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. After a year of earning less than the minimum wage to clean for large Tucson department stores, 3 immigrant workers decided to fight for their right to fair pay. The women turned to the Workers' Rights Clinic at the University of Arizona for help. Now, here's an excerpt from The Cleaners, a film by director Lisa Malamat and undergraduate students studying law and filmmaking at the U of A.
Why don't we just go around and do case updates? So yeah, whoever wants to start.
So I guess I can start. So I'm making calculations for my case regarding the cleaners. I still need to clear up a couple of questions with the clients.
That's going to be an interesting client counseling issue, right? Because the clients in that case are all still working with the employer, and so and they do want to keep their jobs. And so we're going to have to make sure we work with them to come up with a strategy that works best.
The case that I currently have, we have several workers who were getting paid under the minimum wage for over a year. They tried talking to the employer, letting them know that they know their rights, that they want to get the minimum wage. However, that has not worked.
Those 3 clients came to us because they work in the janitorial services industry. They work cleaning retail establishments. This is unfortunately a problem that we see very frequently. The janitorial services industry is an industry that is plagued by improper wage payment of workers.
Hay mucha gente que se aprovecha de nosotros, los trabajadores, que te dicen, ¿sabes qué? Te dije que te iba a pagar a $10 la hora, pero lo siento, no te voy a pagar eso, te voy a pagar a 8. ¿Lo quieres? Porque si tú no lo quieres, ahí está otra persona que inmediatamente entra a trabajar y va a hacer lo mismo que tú y es más, a lo mejor hasta lo hace mejor. Entonces, uno cede por el temor de perder el trabajo. Entonces, es un círculo vicioso que ellos ya lo manejan muy bien, los contratistas.
Hola, soy José.
Buenos días, señor José. Mi nombre es René Besteros. Soy un estudiante de Derecho de la Universidad de Arizona.
When the students make the phone calls to the employers, they practice them and we go through different scenarios of how the call might go. We try very hard to consider all of the different types of responses the employer might give.
El dueño de la compañía no está y es con quien tiene que estar hablando.
Tengo entendido que usted es el dueño. De hecho, tengo unos cheques donde se les pagó a mis clientas con su número de teléfono, con su información. Entonces, debo de suponer que si usted es el que le estaba pagando...
No, pues lo que pasa es que yo vendí la compañía y ya no es mi compañía.
Está bien, pues muchas gracias. Estamos en contacto. Ahí le echaré una llamadita después.
Okay. How do you feel?
Felt good.
The hardest part of the job is the fear for our clients that they have to live with all the time. And just the cases where even though we know something illegal is happening, an employer is intimidating enough and has kind of enough to work with that we end up advising a worker not to go forward because there's too much at risk for them.
Lo que yo había pensado es que por ser tan poquita, somos 3 nada más ahorita. Yo digo que sí nos puede correr.
Es que, como está la cosa, se supone que bajo la ley no los puede correr, pero ya sabes que muchas veces hacen cosas que...
No, tampoco.
Ajá. Shaina dice, si no quieren perder el empleo, pues podrían ya sea ellos o nosotros hablar con el empleador y que de ahora en adelante que ya no haga eso. No sé si ustedes quieran, o ya sea el dinero que se les debe, o que de aquí para en adelante que se les pague como se le debe pagar. No.
No, mira, no, ahora sí ya no.
Entonces, como lo platicamos, ustedes quieren proceder y pues saben el riesgo que les pueden correr y todo eso, ¿verdad? Ok. Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Daniel Ballesteros, soy un estudiante de Derecho hablando de la Universidad de Arizona, de la Clínica de Derechos Laborales. Nosotros proveemos asistencia legal para trabajadores aquí en Tucson y estoy hablando acerca de 3 de sus empleados que estoy representando. I called the employer, he was really aggressive, he said that he didn't mind going to court and he just kept repeating that he was going to take matters into his own hands. I told him that retaliation was illegal, that we would pursue a claim for retaliation. I knew that he was going to be aggressive just because of my clients told me. I just wasn't expecting him to be this aggressive.
Contesté el teléfono, me dice, sí, ¿cuánto es el dinero que yo le debo? Él gritaba, ni siquiera me decía, oh, mira, no, gritaba. Entonces yo le dije, yo no puedo hablar con usted así. Háblele a los abogados, diríjase a ellos. Le dije, discúlpenme, pero no obligo.
It's a really stressful situation for our clients with these constant threats as we go through the negotiations.
Antes de conocer la clínica, yo creía y pensaba que no tenía ningún tipo de derechos, porque como era trabajadora de medio tiempo, yo creí que necesitaba tener un contrato con la compañía. En realidad yo pensé que si ellos me decían, ¿sabes qué? No te voy a pagar más, está bien con lo que te voy a pagar. Si lo quieres, tómalo, si no, déjalo. Yo creía que eso era lo normal y lo que ellos debían hacer.
We were hoping that the initial inquiry that Rainier made would lead to some movement from their immediate employer. That did not happen. We've reached out again to their immediate employer and also now to the national cleaning company that contracts with the immediate supervisor. And it's a stressful time for the clients for sure.
Entiendan que con esta oferta lo único que se está ofreciendo es que se les pague lo que se les debe desde junio de 2016 hasta octubre 5 de 2017. Podemos pedir que se nos pague extra. Ustedes tienen el derecho que se les paguen 3 veces lo que se les debe. ¿Qué piensan ustedes? ¿Quieren seguir ahorita?
Sí.
Okay.
Y una parte más clave es que vamos a pedir que de ahí en adelante están pagando 10 por la hora.
Otra cosa que tengan en mente es que ellos ya nos empiezan a decir muchas cosas sobre, van a cambiar contratos, esto y lo otro. Tengan en mente que aunque es ilegal que ellos los corran, como siempre les hemos dicho desde el principio, puede pasar esa situación, puede pasar que ellos cambien de contratistas, hagan cualquier cosa y nosotros estamos dispuestos y listos para ayudarles en esto. Gracias. Pero tengan en mente que pudiera pasar y por eso obviamente nosotros también queremos pelear mucho por este dinero extra. Por si llega a pasar eso, tienen algo extra para en qué respaldarse mientras buscan otro trabajo, porque no queremos que pues para el domingo ya no tengan trabajo y nomás se les pague lo que se les debe.
Sí, pues.
Okay.
Tíramela para acá, tíramela. Voy a ir, sí voy. ¡Yuhu! ¿Viste? Yo en lo personal personal, yo así me siento. Después de lo que es de la clínica, yo siento como que yo valgo, como que yo soy Matilde, pero yo valgo, yo soy alguien.
Having this experience with the Workers' Rights Clinic has had a great impact on me. At the moment, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do, but this is definitely an option for me.
Véngase, señora.
¿Cómo estás? Con mucho gusto. Bien.
Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, muchísimas
Felicidades.
gracias.
Ya nos van a correr tan rápido.
The second annual Tucson Hip Hop Festival went down on Saturday, February 24th. Local rappers and performers were joined by notable national artists from out of town to entertain the hip hop fans in Tucson. The 4 pillars of hip hop were on full display: graffiti, breakdancing, DJing, and rapping. Our arts and culture producer, Andrew Brown, sat down with the festival co-directors, Jocelyn Valencia and local DJ Pike Romero, to learn more about the Hip Hop Festival.
I really think that anybody could attend the festival and find something that they like.
There's a vivid hip hop scene here in Tucson.
When I say Tucson, y'all say hands up, Tucson, Tucson.
People want to be a part of it, whether you're rapping, whether you're just a fan. It's just something to kind of bring the community together.
The rap element is so mainstream now. A lot of people aren't aware that there's a whole culture behind the genre of hip-hop music. And so that's something that we wanted to properly represent of hip-hop, because we're passionate about the culture, the whole culture, not just one aspect of it, and we wanted to show that.
Everything was still hip-hop related, obviously, from emceeing to DJing to breakdancing to graffiti as the main pillars of what rap culture or hip-hop culture is. And then we had panel talks, movie documentaries, food.
Style is a part of the culture too.
Yeah.
So, I think that's a reason why people want to come, looking fresh.
It's just interesting to see not only just style, but I think just the different types of people that are here. It really represents Tucson and who is here in the city. We had about 352 people apply for the festival this year.
And that's not just Tucson people. I was going through the submissions, and there was people from New York, North Carolina, LA, Florida, Texas. It was all over.
Yeah, it's really cool to see that, because we know that the reach is just getting larger.
It's doubled each year.
It's doubled each year. From attendance to the space that we are utilizing to stages, it's grown a lot. Well, the Tucson hip hop scene overall is a really diverse scene. There's a lot of transplants here. There's a lot of people that come from other places. So you get different sounds. As a whole, we're starting to make a Southwest sound.
Us being so close to the border and being in the Sonoran Desert and being so southwest, that's where a lot of influence comes into our music. I don't think it's defined right now. I think it's still kind of taking shape.
When you think of, I think just the sound of it, the south side and the west side are molding that sound. It's got a certain swing to it. People like Ray, DJ Q, Mike Checks, those three specifically, I hear that sound, and I feel like in the next, the next few years, that sound is going to be helping Tucson, or the Southwest in general, stamp that sound.
The reason why that collective of Ojalá systems is what people are kind of seeing as shaping the sound right now is because they found each other's strengths and share a similar background and are very passionate about Tucson and being from Tucson and representing Tucson. And they came together to do that as a collective, but also representing themselves individually within that. I think that's what makes them powerful.
Be my lover, baby.
People like Lando Chill, who are not necessarily from Tucson, his sound is very organic and kind of airy.
Be my lover, baby.
And they kind of mix very well.
How you guys doing?
I took a class called Rap Culture and God with Professor Nava. And after taking that class, I found out that the U of A offers a minor in hip-hop cultures. So the U of A has been our main supporter for all the festivals that we've put together, and really the ones that have helped us make it possible. We've created like this really unique trade to where we're kind of bridging the gap between community and institution. Their program gets a little more light from the community and our demographic, and then also vice versa.
Comparing to other festivals like South by Southwest or like A3C, we're definitely a much smaller festival, but the elements are there that, we can provide those things on a local level and also bring in some national acts from speakers to artists and get people in Tucson who are part of the community to be able to experience something like those festivals. Which is really important because I know within my career, within hip hop, without going to those festivals, like I wouldn't be able to even just grow.
Tucson. Check it, yo, serving a murder with themselves and take it further and further like multicolored top to bottom graphic burners. Spin a burner full of verses, 86, you're on me.
It's always just been like, we want to create this, we want to create this experience for this one day. We never really thought beyond that of like, what can this turn into?
If this ever becomes something like nationally known, that would be amazing. And we can, maybe make it like a week-long type of festival, then that'd be amazing. But at this point, we just like what we're doing.
If we're able to create this whole event, this whole festival, and most of it is local, I feel like that tells you something about what exists in Tucson, and we wanted to show that.
Let me hear some noise!
Albert Einstein is quoted as saying, "Memory is deceptive because it's colored by today's events. Only no one can quite remember when or even if he actually said it." And such is memory, once thought to be a reliable record of past events, and therefore the gold standard in the criminal justice system. Memory may instead be a constantly modified rough sketch. This next story was produced by mental health reporter Gisela Tellis in 2014.
My sister loves to tell this story, and she's 7 years older than I am, that she remembers me taking off from our house, running down the street to my friend's house, yelling at the top of my lungs, fast as the wind, and then splat, falling flat on my face. Now, I have no doubt that that probably happened, but do I have a memory of falling flat on my face and my sister laughing at me about it? No.
Wendy Dutton is a forensic interviewer. In criminal investigations, she's called on to question children about what they do and don't remember, to get them to tell their stories without tainting their memories.
Forensic interviewing is basically taking what we know from the literature on children's memory, eyewitness ability, and linguistics, and using that science to structure an interview protocol so that children can hopefully provide as much accurate information about something they saw or experienced. So asking a question like, tell me everything that happened, again, is inviting the information to come from the child. I'm not asking option-posing questions like yes/no questions, did it happen inside or outside your house, those kinds of things. It's coming from the child.
From the words she uses to the layout of the room, Dutton controls everything about the interview so as not to alter the children's stories. It's all based on the principles of memory, but researchers have only recently begun to understand what memory is and how it works.
The point of memory is to acquire information so that we can behave more efficiently in the future. That's what we now understand memory to be mostly about. It's quite useful for like telling stories about the good old times, but mostly memory is, gosh, the last time I was in this situation, here's how I behaved, and it worked or it didn't work very well, so here's what I'm going to do this time.
Because they're geared for survival, not accuracy, memories can get lost or changed.
Memory is not a recollection, not a repeating of the past, it's a reconstruction of the past. We have sort of bits of information, some aspects of what happened, and then we construct like the most likely scenario of what did happen. And, you know, by and large it's correct, but sometimes it's not so correct. And that's where the problems arise. Once you admit that that's the case, and once science shows us that that's the case, now you suddenly have to ask questions, well, what is truth? What counts as truth? And in a courtroom, when somebody says, I absolutely remember that this is the way things happened, can we believe that that's the truth?
Paul Simpson has been considering these questions for decades.
In my role as a forensic psychologist, evaluate a lot of criminal cases, a lot of alleged sex crimes, murder-related issues, and other kinds of issues of violence. So on a very regular basis, the question of memory of an eyewitness is central to the nature of the allegations and the court proceedings.
Simpson has seen firsthand how fragile memory can be.
You know, one of the things we saw in the child abuse hysteria of the 1980s into the 1990s, we had McMartin, we had Wendy Martin trial, we had the Akiki trial, where these famous kind of child abuse cases where children were making outlandish claims about being abused, ritually abused. Chuck Norris was coming in to the daycare center and abusing children, and we had elephants and giraffes and zebras that were being sacrificed. In fact, that had not occurred. What had occurred, what we now find in retrospect and the research that's been done, is we had well-intentioned but very zealous therapists doing interviews with kids and creating what we call contamination.
Several controversial studies have shown that stress, the passage of time, and even how a person is asked about a memory can reshape or contaminate it.
The controversial nature of these findings was that they really called into question sort of some fundamental assumptions that we make in society, in particular in the legal system, but not only there, you know, that are based on, you know, somewhat suspect understanding of the way the brain works.
Despite the controversy, the research has changed how the legal system uses memory.
When I first started in the office, which was almost 4 decades ago, it was very arguable in our profession to be able to say, you know, what people talk about is accurate. It's completely accurate. You need to totally trust it. And that has shifted because science has shown us that memory is not infallible. That there are errors and there are distortions. And that's why, as prosecutors, one of the things that we want to be able to do is to present the shoe impression or the tire impression or the DNA or the latent fingerprint or some other forensic evidence that ties the perpetrator to the crime.
Although the legal system is catching up with the science of memory, the rest of us are a little further behind.
Our memories are dear to us. They're a central part of who we are, our sense of self. And so the memories that we have of family events, the memories that we have of childhood, of events that have occurred, good and bad, are very much integral to who we are, to how we see ourselves. And so when you get a scientist poking around and saying, your memories may not be quite as accurate as you think they are, that gets personal. But the reality is for all of us, when you sit down with family members, when you sit down with folks and go over previous events, the amount of discrepancy is significant. And that's the case for all of us. So you got to say, somebody's got to be wrong on this. And science says, yeah, we're actually all wrong on this to some degree, to some extent.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. Here's a sneak peek at the stories we are working on.
It's really a dynamic band. There's a lot of musicians to it, a lot of different flavor in it. Dave's voice is amazing.
The best thing I could do for her was leave her where she lay.
Every time you bring in somebody who's got a different style or different experience, the sound changes a little bit.
Fancy free.
What we're doing is we're preserving a branch of history that is kind of off the beaten path, but just because it's not as commonly known doesn't make it any less important than any other branch of history. What is interesting is that the notion of a timed release drug is very common today. There's a lot of those on the market, and it's interesting to know that they were thinking about that almost 2 centuries ago.
The event is to unite all the communities that we have here, the Arabs and for me Pakistani and Indians and Mexicans, all of us to be together to appreciate each other's heritage, food, culture, and be one, as one nation as we are in America. So we are blessed to be back.
I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.